Hello, everyone. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives. It's Friday morning, 11 a.m. here on Mystery Island, where we have a little bit of rain outside. It was a very, very rainy night. You could hear the rain pounding on the roof, and but it's still in the 50s and not as cold as it usually is here in February. We've had a mild winter, to say the least. And I, for one, am in favor of it. I think it's a great idea to have mild winters. Well, we're getting over the cold. Remember, I guess it's almost 2 weeks now that I got a bit of this cold that's going around. I call it the flu, actually, because it feels like a flu, but it's strange because it's also, you think it's not exactly like what I remember as a flu, but it's not much worse than a cold. The biggest problem with it is that it lingers and it keeps you tired for a while. So I felt like I've been like 80% for the past few days. But that goes away. Everyone says it's just one of those flus that lasts a little bit longer than the others. I think of it that way. Um, did not take one of those home tests to see if I have the famous COVID disease or not. I think it's more important that we just treat it. I'm really into the idea of nutrition and vitamins and taking care of ourselves and getting a lot of sleep. There's nothing wrong with a lot of sleep. If you're sick, maybe that's the best thing for you. Well, let me say good morning to everyone because our Friday morning shows are dedicated to chat and to talk with you guys and to kind of summarize what's on all our minds. My effort this morning is to talk about the Rage Against the War Machine rally, which will happen on Sunday at noon down by the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. And I'll be there. I don't know if I'll be able to make a big sign that says McDuff lives and carry it around with me or not, but I will be there and, representing our effort here at McDuff Lives to end this incredible deep state domination of our country. Good morning, Robert and Corky, Infold, David, Razvedka, Steel Magnolia, and let's see. Scott Ritter won't be there. That's okay. Scott gets an awful lot of time on the internet, and I appreciate him very much. I remember during the Iraq War when he was doing his reporting and revealing, things that the deep state didn't want to hear. They didn't want to know that there weren't any weapons of mass destruction found in Iraq because that took away their reason for going to war. So, yeah, everyone picks up some controversy if they've been in the public eye for 30 years, like Scott Ritter has. But I certainly do uh, admire him and want everyone to know about his work. He's often on Garland Nixon's show, by the way. So once a week he's on with an hour for an hour with Garland. So that's a good way to catch up with Scott Ritter. Also, obviously on the Duran. If you're not familiar with the Duran, that's a couple of European guys that have a tremendous following on YouTube, and it's just called the Duran. They are analysts of European and British interests as vis-a-vis Americans, and really provide a powerful perspective that we don't get in this country. So they're called the Duran. Well, I've been really interested again in David Livingstone and his book, Black Terror, White Soldiers. Again, I referenced it the past couple of shows, but His depth of research is just astounding, and he has a website called Ordo Ab Chao, which I also recommend very highly. And I wanted to also make mention of another person that does these big collective books about everything, and this man's name is William Stewart. And this book called Synarchy, with a couple of um, pyramids in the front, well, you can understand it really does head towards what I need to study. I haven't opened this book yet. It was a gift from our colleague Wendy Wynn, uh, who is one of the original Ospreys on the original Osprey tour back in 2019. And she sent me a number of William Stewart's books. And so I'm going to be delving into those also. But I think, these folks that have done all this work before me, I'm going to take advantage of them and share their work with you, because there's no point in us reinventing the wheel if it's already been invented, right? And good morning to Mark at Housatonic Live. Great to have you here. Mark, I was happy to give you a big shout out yesterday on the Hervoyer Moritz show on TNT Radio, and I'm going to recommend that he get in touch with you. This TNT Radio is a big deal. They've got a lot of subscribers, and was very honored to be interviewed by them yesterday. It's on there at TNT Radio. You can just Google it and you'll find that interview. I've been very, very fortunate to get a number of interviews lately. Courtney Turner has a website at YouTube, CourtneyTurner.com, and she interviewed me a few days ago. I'm not sure that shows up yet. It was pre-recorded, but along with Tommy at Tommy's podcast, that's Tommy Kerrigan, who interviewed me about 2 weeks ago. Now I've got three folks that have interviewed me for their shows, and that really helps get out the McDuff message that we're trying to promote about, you know, learn who McDuff was, study his career. Let's find out how his death fits into what's going on today. And, I think I wrote this book not because I wanted to write a great story or novel or anything, but it's kind of like a textbook, really. If you want to dig into this material, then although this book's only 75 pages long, it has all of the details I could possibly jam into it in a small book. And it's kind of key to what we do here at the show to try to publicize the group SACSA, SACSA, that was the Pentagon Center for Special Operations under the Kennedy administration. And this amazing story of how my dad was put in that position of overseeing all special operations as opposed to Alan Dulles, who was fired from the CIA. So my dad then was put in that position where all the enemies, of our freedom, of our democratic processes, would have an interest in getting him out of the way. Well, that's the theory of the book. McDuff Lives: The Life and Untimely Death of Thomas F. O'Loughlin Jr. Really enjoyed doing a book launch in Ireland of the book on this past August with my wife was there, and you can see on McDuff Lives One, you can see um, my presentation there, which she kindly recorded for us and did a nice production. Let's see. And Enkidu's here. He wants to know, did I check the Peaceful Nuclear Explosions Treaty? I did. I Googled it. And I didn't see anything that really impressed me and could do about it. It looks like an old treaty with the Soviet Union, which doesn't exist anymore. So, and I would love to read something about these underground nuclear explosions, which may very well be what's causing earthquakes. I don't know. But as you know, I put out the theory that it was probably HARP. HARP is a very complicated thing, and I'm not a great scientist in that realm, so I'm just putting out what seems to be the most likely theory. The timing of those earthquakes is really suspicious. And I was also attracted to the idea that it is one of those um, secret weapons that really haven't been revealed yet that has to do with resonance and using um, a pulse of microwaves, for instance, to create the resonance that will ultimately um, cause an earthquake. But those are just theories. I do not know. And yeah, once again, I understand your opinion in Kadu. I just want to know where you base that on. Give us the facts underlying your idea so we can all study it. And once again, I did not find looking into that peaceful nuclear explosions treaty to be fruitful. I just didn't go anywhere. But perhaps there's a link you can put up on the comments, and we can all be educated more about what you're saying. Well, that's interesting. Robert Kovacs, how are you today? You say 1976 Russia and USA signed an agreement not to use HARP for any war tactics. Well, again, I was not aware of that. Let's see. Did you not read in the treaty that 150 kiloton are the detonation units? No, I didn't. But since you want me to, I'm going to go ahead and do the research right here. Okay. And it's all right. I'm going to a site called Arms Control, and I'll put this on the screen so we can follow together. Get this research done. Arms Control Association, armscontrol.org is the website. Peaceful Nuclear Explosions Treaty, PNET, designed in preparation for the Threshold Test Ban Treaty, governs nuclear explosions that are carried out outside test sites as established under the Threshold Test Ban Treaty. Okay, here's your number. The United States and the Soviet Union agreed not to carry out explosions exceeding 150 kilotons and group explosions unless the yield of the individual explosions in the group could be verified. The treaty does not ban against peaceful nuclear explosions in the territory of another state, but these explosions have to comply with yield limitations and be in accord with the Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty. And neither state is able to withdraw from the treaty during its duration of 5 years It entered into force on December 11th, 1990. And okay, here's the official text at the State Department website. Official text. Uh-oh, State Department says, we're sorry. The page may have been moved, deleted, or otherwise unavailable. All right, so yes, now we have read that is 150. Nevertheless, I don't see how it's relevant to today, and it doesn't give me any indication that the explosions were used in producing the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. So I guess that's where I'm at. So I did not read the treaty. Actually, I did read this summary, and I have looked for the treaty, but at some point, Enkidu, it's got to be on you. If you've got the language of the treaty that you want me to read, then just link it to and give me something I can read, and I will read it. I promise you. Morning, Baker. I see you comment on an earthquake in Texas yesterday using the radars they say is to monitor the storms. They kicked up the storm. The energy went into the ground. Earthquake. It's on radar. So many of these comments, these theories, these ideas that I think they make a lot of sense, but I need the I need the chapter and the verse. I need it all written out and here, step by step, understanding how these things happen. And Baker is referring to Dutch sense, uh, and yeah, I spent a couple of years watching Dutch sense and just kind of stopped watching him, not because I don't believe in what he's doing. It's just that my attention went elsewhere. Yeah, fracking too, and that's a whole another subject. So the people heard explosions. Okay, well that's evidence that there were explosions. See, that's what I'm talking about. I need some evidence to support the idea. The flashlight effects in the sky. Some people were citing that as being an effect of use of the HARP technology. So cannot post links here. You can post links in the chat if you want. You can also post links in after the show's over in the comment section below, Enkidu, and any links you post there, I'd be glad to look at. You sent me an email. Did I get it? No, I didn't. Let me look at my email because that would help a lot. I wonder if it went into spam. My email, guys, is at KO Productions USA. at gmail.com. I'm glad to hear from you and do my best to respond. So, Enkidu, send me another email and we'll get into this directly um, between us. I think we can make more progress that way. Enkidu says, I am shadow banned from communication. I, I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't get comment emails. Well, send me one right now, and we'll see if that's true or not. Good morning, Christy. Christy Liebell is with us, and she says to Baker, good morning. Mike Morales also did a quick video yesterday showing how they created the cloud cover in the Gulf of Mexico. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Mike Morales is another one. I did never watch him for very long. I think he does great work, and they were involved in a very serious car accident, which I thought was very suspicious. So I wish them well. I hope they're all healed from the accident. And folks that follow the weather modification, he is another source. You know, there's Jim Lee at Climate Viewer. He's certainly worth looking at. I have a lot of problems with that more famous guy, but and my favorite one is One Pacific Redwood. However, he hasn't been broadcasting for a couple of months now, so I hope he's doing okay. Fracking is done with atom bomb explosions in the underground, regulated by the PNET. And that may be the case, and it sounds likely to me. I'm interested in these atom bomb explosions that are, the peaceful nuclear reactor explosions, because I wonder if they are, in fact, actual nuclear fission explosions like the hydrogen bomb and the plutonium, or is this more of a uh, well, what is it that Corky and Carroll called it, with the electronic means of creating a fusion reaction, which causes the implosion of everything into a collapsed type of explosion. The technology of it is, mysterious as everything else about it. But if they're using nuclear explosions, there's going to be radiation coming out of it, right? And something that we should be able to measure it. Some buildings were nearly turned into dust. It sounds like 9/11 to me, that turning the Twin Towers and Building 7 into dust. Baker says, yeah, maybe it's you that's being censored, Enkidu. You're not able to send me anything. Maybe that's the problem. I'm going to look in my spam folder, see if I see you anywhere. There you are. You are there. Okay, dear John, I could not comment on under your chat video because YouTube is censoring everything I write about this topic. I believe that. You've been censored for a long time and could do. Please read about on the following websites, and then you gave me a number of them here. You know what? I'm going to share this screen because I know a lot of folks are interested. And yeah, that's what happened. It just hit my spam folder. Okay, so you can see here is a number of references that we can study about this peaceful nuclear explosions, the treaty, and here's a bunch of articles that are on Enkidu's website, galearchitecture.blogspot.com. And I guarantee you, you'll be fascinated if you dig into Enkidu's website at, I guess I would say geoarchitecture, geoarchitectur. And it's published in a number of languages. Just push the English flag there, the old British flag, and you'll get the English version of his articles. And a comment at the bottom, the pseudoscientific claims about HARP EMF waves would trigger earthquakes is intentionally spread as part of the distraction scheme from the use of nuclear bombs in the underground. It serves as a plausible trap. Just imagine a World War II bomb of 500 kilograms TNT would blow up under a settlement, as still occurs in Germany. And compare this to 150 kiloton or 10 times that atom bombs in the deep underground as regulated by the PNE treaty. Okay, so now I have unspammed you and could do so. Please feel free to send me more emails and I will respond in the same way and we'll push the ball forward together. That's what we try to do. Nobody has their arms around these big problems. We all have to reach around them together and try to distill the truth. Okay, so and I'm sure that Corky and Carol will be looking into your reports there because this I and also Mark at Housatonic, who's got some his own very well developed theories about nuclear power and nuclear bombs, and I'd really like to know what the bottom line is. Do they blow up? Is that a whole bunch of small nuclear explosions? Is that how they get the gas loosened up in those underground veins of natural gas? I suppose that could be using dynamite, but if it's cheaper and easier for them to use a peaceful nuclear explosion, then yeah. I just don't know enough about the technology or how the radiation is contained, or maybe it's not contained. And maybe that's one of the things that is being covered up as well as the fact that perhaps a lot of our illnesses now, our cancers, are coming from radiation leaks from such activity. Just speculation. I just don't know. But I want to know, and we'll figure it out. Okay. Yeah, and it is true that Enkidu is being censored on many platforms, but I really do think if you want to understand the weather modification, you absolutely have to look at his website, GeoArchitecture, and just spend hours exploring the work that he's done. Bravo, Enkidu, for your work. Infold, hello. At Corky Adiads did great boots on the ground interviews in Ohio. Said the same thing as the Flint people. Yeah. Addie is another one of our original colleagues that came to the charrette here on Mystery Island, and he's out there working very hard, using all the shoe leather necessary to get the stories. So a bravo to Addie Ads, and all good things, all good wishes to you, sir. A young man with the fire in the belly to go out and get the story. That's what we need more of. Well, it's interesting, Corky. I don't know what happened to your computer. We were trying to have you join the other night, and it just technical problems abounded. Sorry to that we weren't able to get you, but you've hooked up with Bob Grenier. We'll get him lined up for a show, hopefully in March, and so good things will come from it. Don't beat yourself up, my friend. It's it's not worth it. Well, so just Enkidu and Corky, the phrase low energy nuclear reactor is in common with both of you and I. I'm not I think you don't have a common understanding of what it is, so there's some more research to be done for us to understand it. I would love to know um, you know, details of how these low energy nuclear reactions are done. Now, Enkidu, one of the biggest problems I've always had, and I still have with the idea of nuclear bomb technology, is how do they make the reaction start? A lot has been written about these ways to that they focus these high energy particles into a center of something that happens within so many thousandths of a second to create the first emission of, I guess it's a neutron, right, that goes flying out and hits the other atoms and bounces more neutrons out into other atoms. But how do they get that thing started? You know, I'm suspicious of it still that they can really blow up places like cities with these nuclear bombs. I'm suspicious of it. And I say that in the context of going to the anti-war Rage Against the War machine on Sunday. A lot of my good friends at the Schiller Institute put all of their energy into nuclear war as the ultimate Armageddon, the nightmare that we all fear the most. And so, if the reason that we want to stop the war in Ukraine is because it is going to eventually explode into a World War III scenario in which sooner or later one side or the other will find itself forced to use a nuclear weapon, which then will, of course, unleash all the nuclear weapons, and the whole world will be inundated with nuclear explosions that will cause a nuclear winter, and we'll all die, except for those that have those high tech bunkers underground and will come out and claim to have won the war in a couple of years after the radiation dies down. That scenario, to me, is not. what motivates me to go to the mall on Sunday. What motivates me is the idea of peace, the idea that we just have to put peace ahead of all these economic concerns. Because these wars are about money, these wars are about financial systems. And you all that have studied this material are familiar with Bertrand Russell and the Pugwash Conference and the idea that mutually assured destruction ensures peace. It does not. Mutually assured destruction simply ensures that smaller wars will continue, special operations will continue, Machiavellian tactics will continue, the use of lies, the use of deception, and all of the techniques of a Ted Shackley and a Ed Lansdale and the Tavistock Institute are all part of this unconventional warfare that goes on under the umbrella of mutual assured destruction. So as long as we're all pretending that the big danger is nuclear war, they get to carry on their little wars, their wars of conquering South American countries, of African countries, of Asia, of continuing to impose dictators like Idi Amin places where they will keep the people quiet while your corporations extract the resources. That goes on in spades all the time. And stopping nuclear war does not stop these wars of economic aggression that destroy civilizations, destroy lives, destroy cities, villages, cultures, languages, traditions, truths. Yeah, as Enkidu says, the main process is to release enough neutrons to start a chain reaction, and that's where I wonder how do they get inside of an atom and get that neutron to go flying out into adjacent atoms to start that chain reaction. And also, while I don't doubt there's been lots and thousands of these underground nuclear reactions happening, we still haven't seen any wartime use of a nuclear bomb other than Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which again, a lot of people look cast uh, a jaundiced eye at. Not so sure those images couldn't have been gotten through conventional explosions and the whole thing part of a big psyop to get us afraid to do anything. Yeah, everybody does, as Enkidu says. The problem is that people tend to consider every earthquake as a natural disaster. Right. Well, again, I want to expose this, and I will study the material you sent me, and we'll go from there. Razvedka. Will Kolomoisky's agents be there for the rally? I hope not. I don't know who's going to be there that might have bad intentions. We have not a great history of successful peace rallies in Washington, D.C., and a lot of the more recent rallies that have happened have ended with violence in them. And I think about the Antifa and the Proud Boys and all that violent stuff that has happened in the past in Washington, D.C. And I pray that that doesn't happen on Sunday. But I am just motivated to go. I really want to go and just let my voice be part of the voice for peace. And I'm encouraged that there are people from the left going as well as people from the right. Um, these characterizations of us as left and right have got to stop because, I think the more important characterization is, are you for peace? Or are you for continuing this war? And I'm obviously on the peace side. Yeah, big groups in DC. Yeah. Anyway, I will be reporting, hopefully report live from the event. If not, I'll be doing a lot of video recording and have hopefully some pretty interesting clips to share with you next week on McDuff Lives. Thanks very much for everyone for your participation in the chat, for being supporting us at Patreon, at John O'Loughlin at Patreon. Keep up with our calendar at screamingospreys.com and my comments, witty and otherwise, at Twitter under Latte Driver. And my handle, Latte Driver, in case you don't know, comes from Latte Drive, which was the house where my father first um, raised his family. I was uh, uh, raised on Latte Drive in Oxon Hill, Maryland, and that's why I call it Latte Driver. Of course, he would have selected a house on Leyte Drive because he was part of the Battle of Leyte Gulf and the return of MacArthur to the Philippines. He never talked about it, but just the idea that he chose that name gives gave me one of the hints that I needed to pull on to get into the story that led to the book McDuff Lives, the Life and Untimely Death of Thomas F. O'Loughlin Jr. It's available on Amazon and Kindle, and I am looking forward to doing some more work, hopefully be able to follow up on the question at the end of the book, which is, can I explain the death by cancer in terms of the technology and the programs that were underway under the CIA's Health Alteration Committee. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.